Welcome to Freedive Live, episode number 4 with Ted Hardy. So I am a freediving instructor as well as a freediving athlete. I'm the founder of Immersion Freediving as well as freedivingsafety.com. So if you have not visited freedivingsafety.com, I would definitely, it's worth checking out. So that's it's an online resource. It provides a free course, goes over the risks of the sport, the kind of the rules, the do's, the don'ts, how to tell if you're overweighted. I'm going to get into the fatality numbers, and yes, there are 50 to 75 fatalities per year in the United States, so you should be paying attention to what's going on in the program. I'll also how to tell you if you're overweighted, and then what to do if your buddy has a loss of motor control or a blackout. Right. So if you haven't gone through a free diving course, even if you had, this is an excellent resource. It's free. If learning how to not kill yourself and save your buddy isn't of interest to you, I will also try to bribe you. If you go through the program and there's a quiz at the end, if you can pass the quiz, I made it difficult, but if you pass the quiz, you're going to get emailed a bunch of discounts from I think 8 of the sponsors of freedivingsafety.com. So save your buddy, save some money, whatever the reason. I definitely suggest you visiting freedivingsafety.com. So for those that are tuning in, do me a favor in the chat. Let me know where you're from and if you are would consider yourself more a freediver, like a recreational freediver, or more of a spear fisherman. Right? So if you put it in the chat, I would appreciate that. Also, after you do that, put in your questions. So I'll be answering questions at the end of the show. I've already got a great question on. Someone had a question about equalizing the 70-80 foot range, so I'll be discussing that at the end as well. All right, so let me just check something. All right. All right, so this episode is going to really have a lot to do with equalizing, right? Because a lot of the stuff I'm going to be talking about is regards of equalizing. So back when I was teaching scuba, back in 2000, I started teaching in 2005. What's up, Jacksonville, Spiro, excellent. Oh, Bill, yeah. So I was teaching scuba back in 2005. That's when I started. And after a couple years, I started having some major issues. So one of the things that would happen to me pretty regularly is I'd be teaching a scuba class, right? So I got 4 or 5 students, right? I jump in the water, let my air out, and try to descend, and I couldn't equalize my ears, right? Like nothing. Couldn't get them to go. If you got 4 students in the water with you, and you're teaching a scuba class, and you can't go beneath 10 feet, that's a major problem, right? So what happened is it was happening so often, I would have to wave at the dive master and tell him switch. And that dive master knew Ted can't clear his ears again. So I was lucky the dive shop that I worked at, we only hired instructors. So the dive master wasn't necessarily an instructor. I would yell switch. He would jump in the water, take over my class. I would jump on the boat, and I would be dive master for the day. Right? Again, this is not a good thing if you're a scuba instructor, if you're regularly unable to do the job. So I talked to the shop about it, and I was super busy diving all the time, teaching all the time. And so what the kind of wisdom from the people that knew more than me was, you're just overdove, right? I'm not sure if that's a technical term, but it sounded like it to me, overdove. You're just overdove. You just need to, just take some time out of the water. Okay, so it makes sense, right? Overdove, like maybe just too much diving. And there, for a lot of reasons, I kind of started going towards managing the shop. I was trying to figure out what the next level, what the next thing was to kind of, go climb the ladder, right? And so I figured it was managing the shop. So I was doing that for a while, and I was resting the ears. So then this freediving course came along. And I took the freediving course, and then I loved it, and then this opportunity to become a freediving instructor. And so next thing I know, I'm flying to Hawaii to take this freediving course, instructor program, and there's that little voice in the back of my head. It's like, dude, you can't barely teach scuba anymore because your ears are so messed up. But when you teach scuba diving, you go down, right, and you stay down, and then you come up, right? As a freediving instructor, you go like this, up and down every time, boom, 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 boom. They're like, and that little voice in my head is like, what are you thinking? Like, this is a bad idea. but I was so like enamored with, but I want to be a free diving instructor. I just, and I'm like, just shut up, little voice. Like, I'm going to do it, right? So I go through the instructor program, and I can, the last day, I mean, I can barely get down to like 60 feet. I mean, it was so hard for me to, whatever the tasks I had to do, I could barely do everything, and my ears were just a complete wreck. I passed the course, but my ears were done. That's excellent. So I saw a question in there. I will answer all the questions towards the end of the show. Okay, so then after the instructor program, I kind of immediately went to my first competition because I'm thinking, look, if I want to teach freediving, I don't just want to be like just an average freediving instructor. I want to I want to get good. I want to be able to dive really deep, right? Because I want to be able to keep up with the dives with the students, and the deeper that I can dive as a competitor, the better it's going to make me, when I'm teaching in the shallows, right, for the courses, right. So I was just trying to learn as much as I could and get as good as I could as quick as I could. So anyways, I go to this competition, Deja Blue Performance Freediving puts it on every year. I'm down there, and within 3 days, like, I'm done. Like, my ears, I can't leave the surface. My ears are wrecked. I can't do anything, and I'm pissed. I'm like that guy that's not fun to be around. I'm having temper tantrums. I'm not behaving in a way I was proud of. And so I remember, I was in my condo, and everyone's like, Kirk, you need to go. Kirk's the guy that runs Performance Freediving. He's the head guy. And they're like, Kirk, you need to go talk to Ted. He's like pissed off. He got some issues, and so whatever. So Kirk comes in, and he's like, what's going on? I'm like, I can't equalize my ears, like, at all. Like, I mean, this is so stupid. I should have never done this. Like, I was, when I was in the Keys, I couldn't equalize my ears. I was a scuba instructor. Then, my dumbass thought I would be a freediving instructor. Of course, there's more, up and down. And so, of course, I can't equalize. And, this sucks. I should have never come. It's a waste of money. This is bullshit. So Kirk, like, listens to me unload all this stuff. And he's like, okay, well, so, just going to kind of go over a couple things, things that we talk about in class. Because I understand you're having some ear issues. So, remember in class we talk about, we really want, our students to start minimizing dairy. So are you doing a good job of cutting dairy out of your diet? As I'm eating a cheese sandwich, or a ham and cheese sandwich, and I had been, eating cereal for breakfast. I'm like, as I'm eating my sandwich, I'm like, no. He goes, okay, well, remember another thing we talk about with our students is you want to be super hydrated, right? Because dehydration makes the things get sticky. The eustachian tube gets sticky, makes it hard to equalize. So, we really want to make sure that we're super hydrated. You should actually be, almost peeing clear, right? Not like dark yellow. You're doing that? No. He's like, okay, well, the other thing we talk about is, we encourage our students because, they're going to be coming down from a class, and there's a chance they might get, some infection, or they get a cold, or they get allergic to some pollen when they're down here. And we talk about, we recommend they take Mucinex, which is an expectorant. Mucinex in the blue bottle, just the expectorant, not the green and the red colored ones, because they have things that work against us, but just the straight up expectorant. So we suggest taking that 2 days before the class to kind of help with get all that mucus out of there. Are you doing that? No. And he's like, I don't know what to tell you. And then just walks out. And so I'm kind of like, these are things that I'm, supposed to be telling my students to do. And Kirk, very in his own way, was like, you should probably do what you're supposed to be telling your students to do, so, you should do it. And so I was like, wow, okay. Ever since I started doing those 3 things, staying super hydrated, and I reduce dairy 2 days before a class, right? Even when we be diving or any kind of way 2 days before. And it's not like I don't have dairy. I just minimize it. I don't do the milk and cereal. I don't get the double cheeseburger, right? I'm not saying I can't have a slice of cheese on something, but I actively try to minimize the dairy. Ever since I did that, I've been teaching freediving for 10 years, right? And that's all I do is up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down. I was about to leave the sport because I couldn't equalize my ears, and just doing those 3 things, that pretty much did it. All right, so definitely something worked for me, changed my life as a freediving instructor, is I would suggest it for you. Now, the one thing about Mucinex, I'm not a fan of you thinking, I always joke every class, every problem, freediving problem we solve by going to Walgreens or CVS. I'm not a fan of just start taking drugs for no reason. Right? If you don't have any problems equalizing your ears, I wouldn't suggest taking Mucinex. We suggest it because people pay a lot of money to come to the class, and they typically fly in their vacation time and hotel and rental car and airplane ticket and the course. So we kind of just try to do everything we can to make it so that it works for them. But if you don't have equalizing issues, you don't need to start taking Mucinex. What you may have heard of is Sudafed and Afrin. Those two things do open up the ears. They especially, it's common you hear scuba divers talk about them. We don't prefer those two methods because both of them jack up the heart rate quite a bit. And so Mucinex kind of does the job without any negatives. The only thing you gotta understand is Mucinex does nothing if you take it on the boat. Like it literally, you want to get that 2 days kind of in, and all that crud will start coming out. Okay. All right. So, yeah, Richard. So, if you guys have questions, put those in the comments. I've got already one question someone already asked. I've got another good one on deep equalization issues. So I will cover those questions towards the end. Okay. And, don't be shy about your questions. I mean, I always say, like, unless you've got like a buddy who's, a freediving instructor for 10 years and has all this experience. If you don't have someone like that, you probably don't. You should probably take advantage of the chance to ask me a question. So put those in the comments, and I will go over those. So another course that I have, another free course that I have that if you guys haven't checked out, you should definitely do. So again, this is another one of the free courses, 70, 80 foot. So I've got a course. It's without a doubt the most popular free course that I have, and it's on how to take a 20 to 30% bigger breath. Right. So the idea is, I don't care if you're a free diver, if you're a spear fisherman, whatever it is you're doing underwater, we all want more time down there. And one of the simplest ways to do that is to take down more fuel. So the question I have for you is, are you taking the absolute biggest breath humanly possible without a doubt? You're probably not. Why do I say that? Because every one of my students walking into my classes, the first thing I teach them, they always go, holy crap, I can't believe how big a breath it is. Almost uncomfortable how big a breath it is, right? So it's how to take a 20 to 30% bigger breath. It's free. There's no reason you shouldn't go check the course out. And that's one of the easiest ways to increase your bottom time is by taking down more fuel. If you take down more fuel by taking a bigger breath, you're going to get more time down there, right? So you can see that at onlineclasses.immersionfreediving.com. Now, one of the things I'll tell you is at the end of the show, all these things that I'm talking about, these links and all that stuff, I'm going to put down after the show. I can't do it right now because I'm obviously doing the show. But basically, once the show ends, give me about 5 minutes, and I got to stick them in all the places. This takes a little time, but I'll put links to all that stuff, or in that case, you saw where you can go if you want to go right now. All right, I thought this was pretty cool. I don't know if any of you guys saw this. Bear with me. This was pretty crazy. So this guy, Ant Williams, is New Zealand, just set a world record, a Guinness World Record for the deepest dive under ice. Right, and so he did 75 meters. Right, so he did 2 days ago. He did 70 meters. And then he just increased to 75 meters. Now I found this on it's on Deeper Blue. You can check out the whole article. What's really cool is there's actually a video of it. I'd show it to you, but last time I showed a video on here, I got in trouble from YouTube, so I'm not really quite sure of the rules yet. So I'm a little hesitant to do that until I understand what's going on. But you can check out the video there. What's crazy about it is it is pitch black dark, right? So not only is he in overhead ice, right? Not only is it freezing cold, right? It's pitch black. Like you look at the video, and he's got a little camera on his mask. I mean, a little light on his mask, and like all you can see is where the light goes, and then it's like pitch black. So you can check that out, but that's pretty nuts. All right. Right, and so remember, if you guys if you have questions, put them in there, and I will go through and answer those towards the end. All right. All right, so I had another kind of, since we're going so equalizing on all these, I had a student, Ben Greenfeld. So he's a fitness guru, podcaster, biohacker guy, right? He's got tons of podcasts. He's a big famous guy and kind of in that world. And he did a private course with me 3 or 4 years ago, 2015, yeah, 2015, November 2015. So he did a private course with me. If you guys want to listen, been on 2 of his podcasts. If you go to his website, look for podcasts, and just put in Freediving or Ted Hardy, and I'll show up. I actually did one of those almost 2 weeks ago. But I love going on his podcast because, well, actually, I love it and I hate it. The only thing I just like about it is his level of understanding of physiology and all this stuff is it's so crazy, right? If you know about what he does, he's the only guy I get on the show that a podcast. I'm afraid he's going to ask me a question that I can't answer, and pretty much every time he does that, right? And I never, when I've done the podcast with him, I don't know if I can just say I don't know the answer to that question. Can we just redo it? Because he just films it live, and I don't know if I can do that, so I have to talk and say I don't know without saying that I don't know. So he's the only guy I get a little bit nervous about. Anyway, you can check out the podcast from him. There are 2 of them. Definitely get really into the kind of the nerdy physiological side. All right, so he came down and took the program with me, like I said, a while ago. And arguably, the fittest student I've ever had, right? He is the elite athlete, right? He wins all the, not the silly Ironman, whatever the worse than Ironman ones are, all the horrible endurance ones, all this stuff, right? So that's his deal. So super fit guy, right? Does a private class with me. Second ocean session, ain't got past 20 feet, right? And why? Right? He can't equalize his ear. So check this out. Here was a post he made on Facebook, right? Bleeding nose, torn up eardrum, on the fence about another day in the ocean. Freediving is hard work. That's on the boat. That's actually, we were out there still teaching. He was done. So, fittest guy I've ever had. He's stuck at 20 feet, right? He couldn't go past 20 feet. And it's so common. As freediving instructors, it is so common that we run into students that get stuck between 15 and 30 feet, right? So if you are watching this and either you personally or someone, there's so many spearfishers I know, and they just go, yeah, I just can't equalize past 30 feet. And they're like, guess what? It's fine. They freedive in the shallows, right? Their ears always hurt. The other thing people that have this issue will tell you that they can't equalize on the way down, but as soon as they turn around to come up, it's like magic, they can equalize, right? So if that's happening to you, what's happening to you is the same thing that happened to Ben. What's happening is you're using the wrong method of equalization for freediving. You are using Valsalva, right? And here's how you can tell right now if you're doing Valsalva. Put your hand on your stomach. Pinch your nose, equalize 5 times in a row as fast as you can. If you feel your stomach going every time you equalize, you're doing Valsalva, and that is why you are stuck. That is why you're stuck equalizing 15 to 30 feet. That's why you can't equalize straight down. Maybe you notice that you have to dive down at an angle. You have to bring your head up, and then you can equalize. Then you have to go back up, and you have to do this thing. Like, what an insane way to dive. Like, you want to go down straight like a laser, right? Straight down to the bottom, right? Boom, 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 boom. So if those things are happening to you, if you feel your stomach going, it's because you're doing Valsalva, and you need to be using the Frenzel method of equalization, right? When you watch me equalize, watch my nose. See how that nose is flaring? See my chest? Doesn't move at all. You watch someone do Valsalva, you see this. You see that movement every time, right? So you got to learn how to do Frenzel. Frenzel is tricky to teach, right? It takes. I've taught over 500 people. I used to require that my students, every one of my students, I would have to do an hour Skype session with them to test if they were doing Frenzel. And if they were doing Frenzel, I would say, bye, you don't need to talk anymore. If they're not doing Frenzel, I would spend an hour to 2 hours teaching them how to do that. So believe it or not, I have taught over 500 people how to Frenzel because I started doing that in 2011 with every single student that I've had. And that is after doing as many as, I mean, I'm just like, right, another time I have to just regurgitate the same information again and again and again. So eventually I got smart and I basically turned it into to an online course, right? So for me, teaching Frenzel is like following a flow chart, right? You start here, I give them something to do. And so the way the videos work is it's actually pretty cool. It's actually interactive. And what I mean by that is I'm going to give you a task. Can you do this? And if the answer is yes, at the end I'm saying, all right, excellent. I want you to watch video number 2. Then I'm going to say, but if you couldn't do that, don't worry. I know exactly why you're having that problem. I've seen that literally over 100 times. I want you to watch video number 4. And video number 4 is going to address that particular problem. So the idea is you get navigated through the program based on whatever problems you're having or not having. So it's as if I'm doing the Skype session with you, because to me it's all very simple. I know how it goes, right? I've got I think it's over 16 videos, over 2 hours of content. I mean, I've got things to do. What happens if you can do Frenzel, but you can't do it when you're inverted? What happens if you can't get enough power behind your Frenzel? I talk about the K block, the T block, right? The grouper call, shutting the throat, all this sort of stuff, right? So again, if you are struggling to equalize your ears, then you want to go check out that course, and you can see it on onlineclasses.immersionfreediving.com. It's $49, but if you're having that issue, it's awesome. All right. All right, so I'm going to take a look at some of these questions. Bear with me as I'm figuring this out. So someone had mentioned the following. Someone, I guess it was Steve, said that he went through the bigger breath course and could definitely take a bigger breath, but he said that he felt that it was hard to replicate in the water. So 2 things I'll say about that. One, you are absolutely going to get less air when you do it in the water for a couple of reasons. Number one, you're wearing a wetsuit, which is constricting, right? So when you're taking these big breaths, you have to push that wetsuit out of the way, right? But it's tight, right? And so you're going to, just putting a wetsuit. So what I'm getting at is if you were to measure your lung volume, take the biggest breath you can from using that technique I taught you in the video, and then you were to measure it by a spirometer, measure your lung volume, and then you were to, on dry land, put a wetsuit on and do the same test, you're going to get less air because of the wetsuit. We also get less air because of the water. The water weighs 64 pounds per cubic foot, right? So when you take the breath, you've got to push that water out of the way, right? So again, we lose air when we're in the water. Now, this is actually probably something I should add to that program, this is one of the reasons you want to take your breath face down through the snorkel, right? Because here's what's not intuitive. Wouldn't you agree that you would think that if the water was here, like the water is at my neck, and I took the biggest breath I can, and then I measured it, you would think that you would get a bigger breath that way than if you're face down through your snorkel. And I'm telling you, it's the other way around. You get a bigger breath if you're face down through your snorkel, and here's why. How much did I say water weighs per cubic foot? Each cubic foot of that weighs 64 pounds. You got to push out of the way. So when you've got the water at your collarbone or at your neck and you're going big breath, you got to push the water from every direction. So you get the water working on you the most, right? In the worst way. When I'm face down through the snorkel, what part is not subject to the water? My back, right? This whole portion right here, right? So that's why I'm going to get a bigger breath. That's also why you see competitive freedivers, we breathe up on our back, because now the most important part is not exposed to the water pressure, and we can get a bigger breath done that way. Now, let me be very clear. I do not recommend that you be breathing up on your back, right? Most of my students are recreational people, actually more than any of them, they're spearfishing, right? And you can't be breathing up your back as a spearfisherman, because you got to be taking care of your buddy. You want to be looking and see what's going on. Not to mention you got to learn this rollover thing, and freediving is complicated enough. So I would just tell you, you want to be basically face down through the snorkel. Now, you also want to keep your head in the water, right? So if I was face down, so let's see, do this right? If I was, yep, face down in the water, I would still, and I would keep my face in that direction, right? So hopefully that answered your question. Howdy, Michael Davis. I think was that Swear I think that's one of the students in the 28-day program, right? So we've got more questions. Let's put those in. So I'm going to go over those towards the end. I've got one excellent question on deep equalizing, and someone's asking about bin. So I'll go over that in a second. Okay. I wish I had my snorkel in here. So I'm going to try to answer that question as best I can now without a mask and a snorkel. And maybe if you send me a message on Facebook and remind me, I'll more properly answer this question tomorrow. I showed this trick to Jeremy Gamble, who's the owner of Speary Magazine. I did a private course and I went to his house. This guy's a world record spear fisherman. He's been doing it, forever. And I showed him this one trick about the snorkel, and he was like, "How the hell have I not known about that?" Right? And so the idea is most people attach the snorkel to the side, right here. And so when you look down, that makes the snorkel tend to go like this, and the water is kind of right here. So your snorkel's right here. Right? What we do is we take the snorkel and we put it on the back. So we attach it back here. So if I've got it attached here, it's on the highest part of my head, right? Instead of like this, it's up here, right? So that's going to raise that snorkel and give it some height, so we're going to get less water in. Now, not only is that a big difference, the other thing, and this is super, super helpful, and I mean, this is one of those things I tell my students all the time this, and then they're out there, they get overwhelmed and they forget, and I have to start harping them about it. But when they get it, it's awesome. No matter how your snorkel is set up, you set it up on the back, or the side, whatever, what I will tell you is for a fact, when you are looking straight down, let's say your snorkel is so this is, you're looking down this way, and your snorkel is pointed like this, right? So that means the waves are going to be coming this way. So your snorkel, you can get some water. If you, instead of looking straight down, you look at a 45-degree angle up. So I'm saying, so instead of looking straight down, you look forward. Do you see that's gonna make that snorkel almost point straight up. So the idea is, instead of looking straight down, just look a little bit forward, kind of a 30, 45-degree angle, and that snorkel is just gonna go, and it's gonna get much higher out of the water. So anytime you're getting water in your snorkel, you just want to look forward a little bit, and that's going to make that snorkel get higher and drier, right? Guarantee it, right? So anytime I ever feel that water going in, that's what I do. All right. So one of the program I'm actually the most excited about that I have is the 28-day freediving transformation program. And this thing is super cool. It's basically, the whole reason this class existed is I've been teaching the intermediate course, my 4-day intermediate course, the past 10 years, in essence, incorrectly, right? Because in my intermediate course, that's the course I get really excited about because I get to go into all the training, right? And so when I get to go over the training material in the intermediate class, this is stuff I'm super excited about, because this isn't stuff, I'm not like reading it off the slide because that's what the slide says. No, this is stuff I've actually done. Right? I've actually done it. I know that it works. I've had other students do it, and I get super excited about it. And what I found out is none, I mean like 2, 3, 4, 5% of the students would actually do the stuff that I taught them. And it used to drive me crazy. I'm like, you're going to spend $1,000, you're going to fly on an airplane, you're going to hotel, rental car, all to improve your freediving, and you don't do the training that I guarantee you works. I'm like, what is your malfunction? Why won't you do it? And so what I realized, because I would ask, and it was this. They would learn this information the last day of class. I've had them for 11, 12 hours a day, 3 days in a row. They're just done. They can't accept any more new information. Because I was just telling it to them, to be honest, they just forget. They forgot. It wasn't like they could go access it on video. So they were exhausted. They were tired. they forgot it. What if you don't take good notes? And so it just kind of not getting done. So that's what this program is. This program is, in essence, the 5 most effective dry land training exercises that you can do, right? And this is awesome because you don't have to go to the, you don't have to, look, if you go spearfishing or freediving 7 days a week, then you're probably pretty good, right? Most people don't have that. So this is an ability that allows you to train at home by yourself, not going to the pool, not going to the ocean. And so I always, ask people, do you want to dive deeper? Do you want to be more comfortable at depth? Do you want to stay down there? Well, of course you do. So then the question is, what are you currently doing to get that result? And the typical answer is, well, I go freediving whenever I can. But that's not specific and targeted training, right? So, and that's what this course is, right? Competitive freedivers, the reason we can do what we do, which is dive really deep and stay down there a really long time, is not because we're elite athletes. It's because we do very specific training. I joke in class, I have a body built by beer, bourbon, barbecue. I use a freediving barbecue guy on all my posts, right? I am not, incredibly this elite athlete, right? Most of my students are in better shape than me, right? So the reason that I can do that is because I go through very specific training exercises, and that's what you're going to learn in the program. The one thing I'm really excited about the past couple of days that I've done is not only do you get all this training, you get this, right? Included in the course, right? So you get the ebook, 99 Tips to Get Better at Spearfishing, right? I literally pay them for every course that I sell so that you can get that for free, right? So that's super cool. The first thing that I do every single morning is I wake up and I open up my computer and I've got a private Facebook group, right? Just for the students of this program. And I answer all those questions. And it's super exciting because I see that, like, one guy today was like, he was telling me he was doing over 4.5 minute breath holds. He started at 2 minutes, right? So I get to see kind of and they post every day. Day 1, here's what I did. Day 2, here's what I did, right? And so then, of course, they have lots of questions for me. So, that's what I do every day in the morning. So you get that. You also get a calendar that you can print out, stick on your fridge, right, to motivate you, and you write your progress, what you did. So I jokingly say every time you go get a beer or a bonbon, that you see what you're supposed to be doing, right? So you go through the training. I've got a PDF that you can print out of all the 5 exercises, so you kind of know what to do. So what I'll be doing for the folks that are watching this, and I'm going to set it till midnight, is I'll take $10 off the price. Of course, it's $95. I'll take $10 off if you use the coupon code LIVE 401. Actually, I need to double check what that code is. Yeah, live 401 is the code, right? So that'll take $10 off, right? The other thing I'm going to do is, if someone buys this tonight, right, before midnight, and you live in the continent, in the United States, anywhere in the United States, if you buy that program tonight, the first person to buy that program tonight, I'm going to ship you one of these, right? The immersion tumblers, right? These are like the Yeti tumblers, right? You can't buy these anywhere else. I only have like 20 of these, and these are basically going to be for my students. So if you're thinking about buying the program and you buy it tonight before midnight and you live in the United States, the first person that does that, I'm going to ship it to you. So what you need to do is, if you're watching this and you're like, yes, I want that, and yes, I just bought that, send me a email, text message, whatever, Facebook message, and I'll get your address. Now, the reason I'm making you message me is I did this on one of the other live events a couple days ago, and someone bought it, and I emailed him like, yeah, so what's your address? And and he's like, what are you talking about, right? So he just randomly bought it. So I'm trying to make it so that this is only for people that are watching this, right? So that's the deal. All right, so let me go over one of the questions I got. So one of the questions I got was on someone who was struggling to equalize their ears in the 70, 80 foot range. And also, just to wear the cup, it's the first person that buys it, right? So if 3 people buy it, only the first person gets it, not all 3. All right. The question was, what about equalizing deep? He said that he once he hits around 70 or 80 feet, can't equalize anymore. Super common, right? So equalizing, there's a couple of hurdles that freedivers have to go over, right? The first hurdle is most freedivers, well, not most, freedivers in the beginning, they so often get stuck in that 15 to 30 foot range. That's because they're not equalizing correctly. They're using Valsalva, they're not using Frenzel, right? So then they get over that hurdle, And then they're going to be fined at 40 feet, 50 feet, 60 feet. And for the average student, right? My average intermediate student, somewhere between 70 and 90 feet, it doesn't work anymore. They're doing Frenzel perfectly. They're just like boom, boom, boom. And they're like, Ted, it doesn't work. I can't do it. Okay, so let me explain why that is. What's happening is when you properly equalize for freediving, which is Frenzel, not Valsalva, Frenzel takes the air that's in here and it shoves it into the ears. Okay, so what happens to the amount of air that's in your mouth every time you equalize? It's shrinking, 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 right? Because you're constantly taking air out of here and shoving it into your ears. Not to mention what happens to a balloon when we take it underwater, right? The balloon shrinks, shrinks, shrinks. So not only are we taking air from our mouth and shoving it into our ears, the pressure is making that air go away. So what happens is, whether you understand it or not, there's actually just some air in your mouth when you're doing your freediving. You're freediving down to 60, 70, 80 feet. And that air just happens to be there. And that's what you're using to equalize your ears every time. You probably weren't aware of it, but I promise you that's what's happening. And for the average freediver, 70, 80, 90 feet, all of a sudden they go to Frenzel and it doesn't work anymore. Why? All the air's gone. There's nothing in there. That's why it doesn't work, right? And that's why you can equalize as much as you want and you're just like, it doesn't work. So at those kind of depths, what you have to do is you've got to go get the air. You've got to take the air from your lungs and you've got to shove it in your mouth. Then you've got to use the air that's now in your mouth and use it to equalize, right? So the way that we do that is grouper call, right? So the grouper call is this sound. Right? The guy that walks in the club and goes, you didn't realize it, but he's actually grouper calling, right? So maybe he's a free diver. All right, but grouper call is, right, if you watch what's happening here, right, what it's doing is I'm creating a negative pressure and I'm putting air in here. So watch what happens if I kind of do it continuously. And I'm going to drop my jaw when I do it. See how the air is going in my mouth? Right, I'm making that funny sound. That's a grouper call. Now, the mistake that students make is they do the fake grouper call, which looks like this. And it sounds like humming out the nose. Right? Notice it sounds different. That's humming out the nose. This is a grouper call. But you notice air is actually coming into my mouth, right? So when you do it correctly, air is going to be coming into the mouth. So if you can successfully figure out how to do that, basically what I would suggest that you do is, once you get to around 60, 70 feet before you need it, do a small grouper call. Drop the jaw. Don't do this. Yes, you can get on the internet and you can find out how William Trubridge and three-stage mouth fill and all this stuff. And look, if you're a 250-foot freediver, then you should learn to do that. You're not. You're talking about equalizing issues at 70 feet. So you don't need to be doing what the 300-foot freedivers are doing, right? You just need to do a small grouper call. Drop the jaw. Don't puff the cheeks out. And then you're going to use that air to equalize your ears, right? You can do a tiny grouper call, and you can put your tongue behind your tongue behind your teeth, and equalize that way. Or if you do a bigger grouper call, and your tongue's on the bottom, that's a different way to equalize. With your tongue on the bottom, it's going to be the back of your throat. That's the back of your tongues, and your throat is doing the equalizations, right? So you have to play around with that. But in essence, that is how you equalize when you're deeper like that. All right, so I'm going to wrap this puppy up. I'm going to see if there's any other questions in here. What's up, Nate? So someone asked a question about the intermediate course. Let's see. So Squid Nuts. Squid Nuts had asked if you only have the PFI pool certification, can you take the intermediate course? Absolutely, right? You don't need to have completed the PFI freediver program to take the intermediate course, right? For instance, some people take the PFI freediver program and, for whatever reason, we don't get one or two things done. I'm not going to tell them, well, you've got to retake the course, right? You can just come in and take the intermediate courses. I only speak for PFI. Performance freediving, we don't require that you take the freediver course before you take the intermediate course, right? So because we don't require that, you don't have to finish it to take the intermediate course, right? A lot of agencies will require you to, start at level 1 and work your way up. We don't require that because we have a lot of, I have, for instance, people that have, spear fishermen that are freediving, they're shooting fish at 70, 80 feet. Already, I don't want to make them take a course where the maximum depth is going to be 66 feet, where they're already diving past that. And the reason that I do that, or that PFI does that, is our intermediate program, it's like the freediver course plus more, right? So even if you take the intermediate course, I'm still going to teach you everything that you would learn in the freediver course plus more. That's the way the PFI courses go. So that's why we can do that. All right, so I'm going to wrap this puppy up. So I will be back. I'm going to shoot for Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Same thing I've been doing. So I hope to see you guys then. I'm going to, once I shut this thing down, I'm going to give me 5 minutes. I'm going to put the links up to everything that I talked about. I'm going to put that coupon code in there. And then you know the deal about getting the cup. All right, so that's the deal. I hope you guys enjoyed the show, and see you later this week.